Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make melodic techno drums. So, as usual, you get the project file and samples and presets, all that kind of stuff in this video for free in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because they'll be available there shortly. And yeah, let's get started. So, this is what you heard in the intro, and the first sound that we have here, we're at 125 BPM, is the kick, which sounds like this. This is pretty simple. You can see with this kick, it's completely dry actually. We do have a bit of group processing, but as far as like the individual kick sample, it's pretty dry. Yeah, really simple with this one. With this one, it's more about the type of sound you get. Like, in this case, kind of like a softer, rounder, more like warm, low-endy kick, if that makes any sense. But yeah, and you can also hear like it's a bit tighter, it's not like a super long like an 808 or something like that. It's just like this really tight, clean kind of kick like this. Again, it's really more about the type of sample, and this is what you want to be looking for. The next thing that we have here is these two hi-hats, which sound together like this. So I made these two hi-hats myself. They're both made using operator. Basically, we have this one, which is playing like 16 notes. And then this one, which is playing on the upbeats. And yeah, so the way these are made, like I said, is using operator. Basically, they're both white noise, so you can see like the first one, you can see I've just got the envelope set like this, and then we got that going into a bandpass filter. And the second one, same thing, just a little bit of a different envelope shape, and then I've got that going into a bandpass as well. So this is a really good way to make hi-hats. You can get a lot of different kind of sort of like types of hi-hats this way. Like you can hear like even just turning that resonance up and down is a really good way to kind of create more interesting textures and just do different stuff with it. And then like even when we start moving the filter frequency, like there's just so much room to play around with these kinds of hi-hats. And this is what I really like about these, is like they really give you, again, just a lot of room to play around with and a lot of cool stuff that you can do. So yeah, like I said, this one's doing 16 notes. This one's on the upbeats. The other thing I will say is like you can kind of pay attention to like the timbre / sort of like the texture, I guess you would say, of these two hi-hats. Like you can hear the ones playing on the 16 notes is a little bit darker sounding. Like I've got the filter a little bit kind of deeper, and it just, it's something like, and then this one's like the really bright, like, so like if we reverse these, it would sound weird. Like if we put this MIDI on this one, and this MIDI here, like it sounds kind of weird. So you just want to keep that in mind. Like you usually want the one that's on the upbeats to be a little bit brighter and a little bit louder and a little bit more in your face, and the one that's playing 16 notes is kind of chilling in the back. So after that, we have this clap, which sounds like this. And so this is pretty simple. It's just like a nice kind of clap. You can see I'm just kind of playing on the 2 and the 4 here. Pretty simple stuff, and then I have it going and do some effects. So I'll talk about the type of sound with this one first. Mostly like with this type of stuff, you want these kind of like tighter, sort of cleaner type of clap sounds. Like something like this, where it's just not really like super long or anything. It's just a quick little like that, but it's got a lot of punch to it. It sits really well in the mix. And yeah, and then I also have a few effects on this one. So here's what it sounds like dry. And then with the effects. So the first thing we have on here is this reverb, which you can see I just have set like this. I've got the decay time down pretty low, and then I've got the dry wet down pretty low as well. And so it's just adding a little bit more space kind of on top of the clap. Like you can hear, it just kind of helps to give it a little bit, like I said, more space, kind of put it into a room, and yeah, just kind of fits it into the mix a little bit more. After that, we have the saturator. Here's without it. And then with it. So I really like using saturation on these type of claps. It can really help to kind of tie them together and just give the clap like a little bit more kind of crunch and more impact. You can hear, like if I turn this off and then turn it on, it makes it a lot fatter and a lot more kind of full sounding. So yeah, that is it for the clap. After that, we have these two percussions, which sound like this. Basically, you can hear I have this one, which is playing kind of like with the clap. It's like kind of like that. And then I have this one, which is playing kind of like adding a bit more sort of just like extra background percussion. So yeah, I think the percussion is very important with this style of stuff, because think about it. If I just play you like these hi-hats and the kick and the clap, it's cool, but it's like, that could just be house music. But I feel like this kind of like more techie percussion is really what makes a big difference here. So yeah, and then on those, you can see I've also got a bit of delay. So like this one, I have 8th note delay. There we go. And then on this one, I have the 16th note delay. You know, just kind of playing around with the contrast a little bit there. Like, I never like to have them doing two of the same things at once, basically. I feel like it's kind of nice to have a bit of contrast there by having the two different delays on there. And then it's also about, like, the sound selection, too. Like, this one, for example, since it's playing at the same time as the clap, I made sure to use a sound that was, like, really different from the clap. You know, like, this is like a little bell or something like that. And then, like, with this one, you know, I probably wouldn't play this at the same time as the clap because it would get kind of messy. But by having this here, you know, it works because it's a little bit of like a smaller kind of thing where it's not getting in the way of all the other drums so much. So all that percussion and drum stuff that I just showed you, I have in a group here, and I'm doing a bit of group processing. So I really like this technique because basically, you know, if you're trying to get your drums to sound really cohesive and tight and kind of like one unit, there's really not a lot else you can do besides processing them together to really help get it there. Like, that is really the best way to do this, because basically what you're doing is you're putting the same effects and the same textures and the same processing on everything at once. And in doing this, you are kind of like squashing it together, like not like, you know, compressing it or like super over distorting it, but you're kind of like putting the same sort of like umbrella of processing over top of everything. So by virtue of that, it's going to have kind of a more together sound. So here is with no group processing and all of it. So you can really hear the difference there. It's really helping to bring those drums forward and again, just make the whole sort of like drum percussion section sound tighter. So the first thing that we have on here is this reverb, and this is really subtle. Here's without it. And then with it. So what this is doing is, you can see I have it down like really short. I've got the size down, I've got the K time down as well. I've even got the dry wet down. But it's just giving like a little bit more space to everything. If I turn the dry wet up, you can hear it. And yeah, so that's basically what's going on. And what this is doing is basically, it's kind of putting everything into the same space, you know? It's like, again, if we're trying to like make everything sound really cohesive, it can really help to give everything this like really even, similar reverb. Like, basically, if you hear these sounds, they all have the same reverb on them. So just by hearing that, the listener is already going to perceive these as being like a lot more cohesive than if they were just hearing it without this. And then yeah, the key here is just keeping the like the dry wet down a bunch, because obviously too much can become too much. After that, we have this drum bus, and I'll show you. Here's what this sounds like without it, and then with it. So you can hear this is really fattening the drums up and kind of like squashing them together a little bit more. Like, basically, the way anything like this that's kind of like a saturation or a distortion effect like this works is it's crunching everything together. Like, if I get a saturator here, we'll turn this output down and turn this drive way up. You can hear, like, even though that's obviously like way crazy, that's what that's doing. It's like crunching everything together. It's making everything sound really like, you know, squashed like that. And so if we use a drum bus and we just don't go as crazy as that, we can get the same effect where it's squashing everything together and fattening it up like that, but just in a smaller amount. It's not going to take over the mix so much. So yeah, that's what this is, again, without it. And with it, it's just helping to tie everything together and kind of fatten the drums up a bit at the end of the chain there. And yeah, so I believe that's it for this one. Thank you very much, everybody. Like I said, you can get the project files, samples, MIDI, presets, all that kind of stuff in this video for free in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available there shortly without a download gate. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.